Hello, everyone, and welcome to our monthly Free Traveler Confab, where free travelers like yourself get together once a month, first Tuesday of every month, to talk about what's going on, how you're pushing back against the fraud that is the DMV and the vehicle code. And so I welcome you all. Thank you very much for being here. Thanks for taking the time out. My name is Clint Grease, and I'm so proud and so grateful to be the one to help facilitate this conversation. It's ultimately your conversation, and you're the ones who are going to breathe life into this conversation with your real life experiences. With the Common Law Group, all of our courses are designed to empower you with the principles and practices that you need in real life to push back against the various forms of tyranny that you may experience, and to actually get busy with the legal processes necessary to stop those same tyrants. As we learn over and over and over again, the two tools that are used again and again against we the people are intimidation and our presumed ignorance. So as much as we can help with eliminating the ignorance part, as well as all the research and study that you might do independently, there's also a matter of you being unintimidatable, meaning that you have an attitude, you have an understanding of who you are as a true divine sovereign individual that you are, and that we collectively are the sovereigns of this land. And when you know that deep down in your very bones, then there's no doubt. So that every time you go to stand up for yourself, and every time you speak, and every time you deliver a legal document, it carries with it that attitude of the knowledge, the deep, completely undoubtable knowledge of who you are. And then those tyrants can understand that more than anything. So we need to work on both of those, and how that looks is that you either find yourself at the raw end of the stick, that is that some tyrant has come to you in your life, whether they pull you over the side of the road or any number of other things that they try to do to send you a letter saying that your registration is overdue, all the various things that they do to intimidate you and rely on your supposed ignorance of the truth. You have a choice. You can either comply or you can stand up with us. And so we started this monthly confab, which is short for confabulation, a discussion group of people like mind discussing things. We started this monthly confab out of our course, our premier free traveler course called Don't Fear the DMV. Our students wanted to continue to be in conversation with one another, to continue to support one another. We pointed out that yes, it's not going to work if we're out there working on our own, just individually, single, solo, out there on the highway, for example, getting pulled over. If you know that there are other people behind you and supporting you, it makes a huge difference. We're going to turn the tide eventually on this. The freedom in the hearts of men and women in this land cannot be extinguished. And so that's how I know we're going to win. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it has everything to do with who shows up to these monthly confabs and what kind of energy and momentum we can create here. So I'm going to make the invitation over and over again in various ways, but I invite you to own this movement, to make it your own, to be not just an observer, not just someone who comes here to casually watch out of interest. I mean, you are welcome, but in the end, the success of this movement is going to come from people who are putting themselves on the line. For example, I can give you all a homework, one simple, very simple homework to do. Pull out your driver's license right now. Pull out your driver's license from your wallet or your purse. Take a minute to go get your driver's license. I want everyone to get their driver's license in your hand. I want you to really reflect on what this document is, what it is. It's a document, it's a license, and what it really represents. If you've got your license in your hand, go ahead and raise your hand right now, because I want to talk with you. Tell me, what does this document represent to you? As you hold it in your hand and you look at it, what does it really signify to you? Go ahead, Natasha.
Hi, Clint. Nice to see you again. So basically, right now, what the document signifies is my ability to drive on the roads. I mean, that's basically what they tell you it's for. Also that if you don't have a driver's license, they actually say that, and you're driving around, it's illegal. So I guess in a sense, what the driver's license signifies is that you're obeying the law. That's kind of what it signifies right now, to me and most people.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I invite you to put it on the shelf. And the next time you leave to go somewhere in your automobile, that you intentionally leave it at home. Just one time. Just the one time, and see how you feel about it. Observe the kinds of thoughts that cross your mind as you walk out the door, as you get into your automobile, and as you turn it on, back out of your driveway or however it is. And just notice how it feels. You feel naked? Do you feel afraid? What is it like just to go out freely with no need for permission from your government to just go about your day? I invite you all to do that. Edward, what's it like? What does this mean, this thing in your hand?
Well, to me, it's virtually a contract that you'll agree to conform to their unlawful and stupid statutes, codes, regulations that aren't law. They aren't law, and they carry no weight, in my opinion. They carry no weight at all, because I'm not one of their corporate employees. I'm not one of their, I'm not a franchise of them, of the state. I'm not a ward of the state, and I'll be doggone if I'm ever going to be one.
Very good, very good. Sounds sort of like for you, it represents an overreach of government, or an unconscionable contract they think that they have with you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it's a contract that I made with them, and I was ignorant to the fact that I never had to do this in the first place. And I look at it as a document of extortion. A way to fleece you out of your money, your time, your property, your rights. I mean, it just goes all the way down the line to the ridiculousness. And once you find out what they're really doing, I can't say anything good about it. And that's in my opinion.
Good. So then will you take that and put it on the shelf the next time you go out, and just try going to the grocery store or visit your family and come home without your driver's license? Would you be willing to do that?
Yes, I'm going to do it now that you brought it up. I will do it.
Good. I want to check with Sue-Ann Caesar, who's here. Sue-Ann Caesar is our free traveler expert. Together with David James Rodriguez, we delivered the Don't Fear the DMV course earlier this year, and it's available for everyone to go online. It's part of the free traveler lifetime membership. Sue-Ann Caesar is here, and David's going to be joining us in a little bit. Sue-Ann, I see you're holding up the Black's Law Dictionary.
Well, good evening, everyone. Have you ever looked up the word license in Black's third dictionary? Because after that, they changed it, like they do a lot of things the legislature likes to do, okay? But license, in constitutional law and in law of contracts, a permission accorded by a competent authority, I wonder who that is, conferring the right to do the same act, which without such authorization would be illegal, or would be a trespass or a tort. And I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cases that follows that definition. Okay. So when you go to this authority, okay, the reason you go to this authority is because you are transporting persons or property for hire. And what officer has ever stopped and asked you the question of if you are transporting persons or property for hire? Because that's the only person who is required to have a driver's license. Now, of course, I've not had one since 1995. I've had 6 tickets since 1995. I've won all of them. And the one I like the best is the one when I went to court, I went to trial, and I had 2 officers that I asked them 5 questions of. And at the time I was driving without a license and without a plate on my car. And after the 5 questions, the judge makes a ruling, and the ruling is you are not guilty. And I really love that case. The one that I was into just before that was 9.5 months, and that was a little tough, but I won that as well. So after my last ticket, which was in 2009, they leave me alone. I don't know quite why, but that time they actually took me to jail, took my photo, my fingerprints, and whenever they see my car, they follow me, and then they decide they're not going to, and they turn around and go another direction. And I like it when they do that. But it's a permission. The idea is that if they give you permission, that means that you are their slave. You are not a free individual.
Exactly. Exactly. They've taken a right and tricked us into thinking it's a privilege that we need to pay for. In fact, we got a letter, one of our students got a letter that spelled that exactly. It said, driving is a privilege. There's so much more to say about the fraud itself, and that's why we encourage you to get really, if you haven't done the Don't Fear the DMV course, we really encourage you to take that course in order to get the fundamentals of the entire fraud, the cost that it is, and what you can do about it. So yeah, it's a 6-week class. The first class itself is all about the fraud, how it began, how, for example, in the state of California, when cars were new, the state bought a bunch of cars and they created the Department of Motor Vehicles for the state to manage its own set of assets known as automobiles. And they created, rules and regulations for those who worked for the government and driving, government-owned automobiles. But then, as so often is the case, a lot of areas of life, they start to do a little creep. It starts to slip, like a slippery slope into our lives. And they say that, well, for safety's sake, everyone needs to comply with these rules. They don't really have the right to do that. And so they keep the same rules on the books to regulate themselves, but tell us that it's for everyone and no one's the wiser. So that's all covered in the first class. And then in the second class, we talk about the huge cost that it is to us. I mean, we're dealing with now not only the registration fees, the license fees, but we're also dealing with the gas tax. I mean, it's a big topic right now, right? The price of gas. So is anyone aware of how much of that is a tax? And Suanna and I were just talking earlier, right? Suanna, the tax itself, we're not obliged to pay that tax, are we?
No, only if you're engaged in an activity to which the legislature can rule and regulate. That would be government employees, corporate officers, and those who are engaged in transporting persons or property for hire. You got 3 groups that are under the code section. Everybody else is not, and tax on gasoline is for only those 3 individuals. If they are out getting gas, they have to pay the tax. Well, of course, if the people stop paying the tax, well, they're not going to get quite as much money as they got before. So they don't like you to know that they cannot get a tax from you.
Exactly. So that's, I guess there's a fourth group, which is us, the ones that got fooled, right? And either were tricked into voluntarily, without true knowledge, voluntarily contracting with these folks and agreeing to all their rules by at the point when it actually happens when you apply for a driver's license, correct?
Yes.
When you apply for the driver's license, you sign away your rights,
Mhm.
travel freely, and you agree to be one who is regulated. And so that's why they don't ask on the roadside, because they assume like everyone else has volunteered to be part of this fraud. So
Yep.
what do you got in your hand there, Portia? Do you have your driver's license in your hand?
Um, Actually, I don't have it in my hands because I lost my wallet a while back. It's been maybe almost 2 years now, and ever since then, I was only recent. I haven't been using it, or I haven't been traveling with it. It is only recently that I had to go to a trip. Well, not that recently, last August, that I had to attend a wedding in Texas, and I wanted to rent a car, and they wouldn't accept I do have an international driver's license, but they wouldn't allow me to use that. So for those reasons, I had to send in to have my license mailed back to me. But for over a year and a half, I was traveling without it, and since I received it, I've put it away so that I really don't travel with it. I do have that international driver's license in my glove compartment, however.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Yeah. So I can guess what the average New York State license represents to you.
Oh, just a big bloody headache and a lot of unnecessary energy and time wasting. So my intent is to um, revoke it or whatever it is, turn it in. But I'm not quite at that point yet, but that's my goal. I don't want it.
Very good.
Clint, somebody put something, says, did you turn your license in and cancel your registration? And what about insurance? Okay, let's talk about doing that. All right, until recently, okay, what I've been doing is that I've been getting my license, and 1995 is when they instituted the Social Security on the driver's license. So I went into DMV and I took their test and I paid the $12, which it was at that time, 1995. So the clerk called me to the counter and she says, you have to put your social security number on here. And I looked at her and I said, well, I don't have a social security number. She says, well, without a social security number, I can't give you a driver's license. And I said, excuse me, according to Social Security, the number belongs to them. It doesn't belong to me. And so I don't have a social security number. She says, well, I'm sorry, without a social security number, I cannot give you a driver's license. So I looked at her and I said, oh, well, I guess I don't need one. In 1995 was when I started my law research, and I found a law researcher to do my law research. And of course, he had told me that I didn't need to have a driver's license. And I accepted that because it took me 1 year to fully understand the actual law. You know, I just looked at her, shrugged my shoulders and said, well, obviously, if you're not going to give me one, then I don't need one. And I walked out the door and I've not had one since. Okay. In the meantime, every time I take the plates off my card, which of course I obviously did that, they drove me nuts. And so I put plates on my car, and I at least with the plates, they left me alone. I would get plates from Oregon. I had a friend that showed me how to do that, and I got the plates from Oregon, and they didn't want to stop me very often. The one time they did stop me, I made a left-hand turn at a light, and I pulled into it in under yellow, and it was red by the time I got the full left-hand turn, and they stopped me and gave me a ticket. And of course, I had no license, and they took my car. This is the one they put me in jail. They put me in jail. They took my picture. They took my fingerprint, even though I told them, I do not give you permission. I do not give you permission. But they did it anyway. And after I went to court and they found me guilty, they charged me $800. They didn't ask me to go on probation. They didn't ask me to get a license, but they wanted the money. But I did an appeal, and they told me I was correct. But they told me I still had to have a license. And of course, I ignored that. And since then, they have not stopped me. They followed me a lot, but they've never stopped me. Now, I also had a student back in the 90s. He took my paperwork and he figured out how to drive without a license and without plates. And they used to stop him for the first 2 years. And after that, they finally let him go. And for 8 years, he drove without a driver's license. And they knew not to stop him. Many of his jobs were on military bases. And when he drive on the military bases, they knew he did not have to have license, and they knew he did not have to have plates on his car. And the one thing they told him was, if you're driving an automobile with plates, you have to have a license. So he could not drive anybody else's car, but he could drive his own, and they would leave him alone. If you know how to do it, it's great. It's the law. So why should it be so terrible that we are out without a license? And they know better than to stop me. And it's because I made sure they knew that I was not one who had to have a license. And every one of the cases that I went through, I won each and every one of them. And they knew my paperwork, and they leave me alone. If you are driving without plates and license, most often you get stopped. So until you go through the process to have what we call private plates on your car, we don't suggest that you do that right away. But when you use conditional acceptance with the officers, conditional acceptance that I use seems to have been very significant. It helped a gentleman in San Francisco that had a speeding ticket. He got a felony reckless driving ticket, and he used the paperwork, and they didn't even want him to go to court. And they'd keep having him re-sign to agree to go to court. But even when they set the court date and he did not show up, they did not issue a bench warrant. So it worked really well for him. Now, I understand there's a couple people who have used my paperwork, and it has not worked for them. And it's one of those things that you have to understand, that the legislature makes changes to the code section to eliminate your right to remedy. And that is what's really a challenge. And so I'm in the midst of looking for information that I can put together to take it to the court and get them to agree that they do not have the right to do what they're doing, because that's when the conditional acceptance works well, is when you can provide information to them that they look at and go, okay, we're going to just leave her alone, because it's the only way we can do it right now. I just recently got my private plates and I'm getting ready to put them on my car because I just got my car working. I have 2 cars. One of them I just got working. The other one still needs to be worked. So it will be very interesting to see how what a challenge I may have by utilizing my private plates. But in the meantime, I'm just looking forward to helping others try to get themselves set up so they no longer have to deal with DMV. And I am looking forward also to taking that to court and utilizing what is available. And a lot of it has to do with, what do you believe in your heart? What can you stand up and know that this does not apply to you? And how do you explain that to the court system? And I always do it just through my paperwork. If I have to go to court, I take my paperwork and I never answer their questions. I read from my paperwork. Everything I do is read from my paperwork. And they have a difficult time if I do not answer their questions. And of course, if they call your case, you have to say who I am in a way that they understand that you're not agreeing to whatever they're telling you. So it's a game you play. And I think life is a game, and it's one you have to understand and follow certain rules. And those rules are, you never, ever say anything to them that is not within your paperwork. I think that's real important.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you. That's certainly going to set the stage for a lot of our conversation tonight. You covered a lot of things, and the summary really is that you and we all together are figuring this thing out. And this free traveler movement that we're creating here is an opportunity for all of us to choose where we want to take on the powers that be. Obviously, we're dealing with, mass of people around us who all believe and all agree that they, quote unquote, have to do all of these things. And it's going to take all of us working together. So we're going to hear the stories tonight from a few people who have, right now, they're facing tickets and more, some basic traffic tickets and more. David James Rodriguez has joined us. Thank you for being here, David. I know it took a little extra effort for you to be here. You're on the road, but thanks for coming, because when we last talked, we got the update of what's going on for you in as of a month ago. So we want the update. We want to know where you're at, and if there's any way that we can support you. Then I think there are at least 3 other students online who are facing tickets and are doing different things, and we want to hear what they're doing and how they're faring, because in the end, we have to back engineer what their systems are. Because, for example, when Sue-Ann is followed by highway patrol and they don't pull her over, we can assume that there must be a flag in their system that says, don't mess with this one. So they have systems that both entrap us and control us, but they also have the systems, those of us who they know have figured out their fraud and aren't going to be such an easy prey on the road to take their money from. So it's easier for them to let it go. At least that's what we assume. So again, we're working together with everyone's combined experience and the various stories that we hear. We really can figure out what their moves are. And yes, as Sue-Ann points out, the more we learn and the more we take action to free ourselves, they notice that, and then they go work in the state capitals to change the legislation to make it even harder for us to do that next time. It's kind of like, reminds me of the Star Trek character called the Borg, where they adapt and they learn their enemies very quickly, and then they adapt. So what might have worked, so to speak, 10 years ago may not work the same way today. The bottom line is we are free, we are the sovereigns, and that's always true, and that hasn't changed. And so there's always going to be a remedy as long as we don't stop fighting. So again, welcome to the Free Traveler movement. And this is your movement. You're the ones to breathe life into it. You're the ones who are here to make this a thing, to give it momentum, to share our real life stories so that we can all learn together. And just so you know, everyone here, we're here to support one another. No matter where you are, no matter what you choose, we're going to support you, because we don't know your whole life. We don't know how much risk you're willing to take. I did ask that everyone just go out of the house without their driver's license one time, see what that's like, and you can choose to do that or not. But any and all of this is your choice. We just want to give you the information you need to make a best informed choice. And then whatever you end up doing, we will support you. So David, let's hear what's going on with you.
We're on a camping trip, Float Fest 2022, a freedom festival. And there was probably, I don't know, 500 or 600 people out here. And I'm in Texas right now as we speak. And so we're able to do this call through technology. And I actually might be moving as I'm talking with you. So bear with me. But I think what I wanted to share about tonight is being on this heroic journey of facing the powers. And I don't call them elite, you call them the powers that be, but I'm starting to become more accurate with my language for my benefit, because I realize that I am the king, you are the kings and the queens out there, and we are one with all this. We are powerful beyond measure. I'm so grateful to see you, Sue-Ann. And as you said, what you believe matters, right? Like we're talking about like Jedi mind tricks, right? Like these are the guys you're not looking for, so how to raise my own frequency, my own game. And what I did for Right to Travel for 3 years was very exhilarating. It was very empowering, despite the troubles that I've had in the court cases now. It is very it feels great to exercise your freedom. It feels great to exercise your rights. And to Sue-Ann's point, I think the solution, one of them is to be that if you come after us, we're not an easy target, so leave us alone, right? Go after the easy targets. And for us, we're learning this paper game. And, this Right to Travel, I haven't found like the one solution, or like you say, it works a little bit and then it changes later. This is a practice. This is like a law practice, a medical practice. We evolve and we change and we adapt, and we got to get better. And that's what humanity is facing right now, is that we have been pushed into the corner because our apathy, our ignorance, we've been programmed and conditioned. And so now the lights are coming on, and now we can see the outnumbered, intergenerational, hyper wealthy predator psychopaths. Okay, this is the phrase that I give. I don't call them elites. Okay, these people are supposed to be servants to us, and they're out of pocket and out of control. So on this hero's journey, it's very exhilarating, and it's emotional. And like you said, Clint, like I'm not saying do Right to Travel. I'm saying I am a man on the earth and I'm allowed to travel. Now, I might get pulled over. I might, you might get ticketed. You might get kidnapped and thrown in a cage. This is the price of growing freedom. I think that's what it is. And I have a friend who, she's like, she just got her private plates. And I said, I got this court case. I can't do Right to Travel right now. I said, but you were with me and you saw me get kidnapped multiple times. You saw me, get my car towed. I said, I'm not sure that I recommend you do that. She's like, I want to do it. I'm like, okay, great. Do it. Right. So this is where each one of us as the kings and the queens get to choose how we're going to exercise our freedom. Because if you're on this call, you're watching this video, you know that you are chosen. You are here for a reason. You're not like all the other asleep masses. Now, I'm not saying we're better than anybody. I'm asleep in some ways in my life too. But in terms of freedom and natural right to travel, we're allowed to do that. So it's a very exciting thrill to do Right to Travel, and it's very powerful, and it's also terrifying. Okay, because you're dealing with guys with guns, ignorant politicians, ignorant judges, criminal departments, and so because I'm facing these charges right now, you know, I have time, and this is part of what this camp out was for me, is to kind of be alone and to reevaluate how I'm going to grow freedom, because I can't help anybody in jail, neither can you. So going to jail is not the way to go. I think it's because they're intergenerational planners and producers. So that's, I think, a very powerful position for us to be in as well, is going forward. How do we grow freedom? Is, I think, you have a long-term perspective, but okay, if we do Right to Travel, there's risks. And if we just continue to let the licensing and all this and tyranny and slavery come upon us, there's risk for that as well. So there's consequences whether you exercise your freedoms, consequences whether you stay silent and play a long game, play a short game. As we said in the Don't Fear the DMV course, there's over 20 states that are now floating the Real ID, or I should say the linking of the driver's license to medical information, social credit score information, financial information, right? It appears to be the driver's license is going to be the thing, the passport that they link humans to, what they want.
That's great, David. That's great context. But really, the
Yes.
most important thing we want is you and your actual life experience. And that's true with everybody on this call tonight. And as far as the free traveler movement is concerned, we want to focus everyone on the real story of what's actually happening, because the people in this Zoom can discern for themselves from your story if you just give us the facts and maybe some, yes, of course, please tell us how you're feeling about it, and you know what your thought processes are, things like that. But people can benefit most if they just have the brutal facts of the matter, and then they can use that in their own lives. They can take what from your experience and map it onto their lives, and then make choices for themselves. So we want to hear like just the facts, just the basic facts. Just go for it.
Oh, okay. My car's been towed 8 times in the last 2 years. I've been arrested a couple times on the side of the road, and it's all because I wouldn't identify myself. And I told them I was a traveler, I'm not a driver. The cops, you know, sometimes they escalate quick and sometimes they wait, 60 minutes, and we have some banter on the side of the road. And so I was facing vehicle code violations and then misdemeanors for delaying an officer in his duty. And I was like, okay, I'll go to court and I will fight these misdemeanors and these vehicle code violations. And I was going to do that. That's why, I was like, let's get beyond the theory. Let's see what really happens when I do Right to Travel. And then I got a monkey wrench in the situation when I was doing activism in Santa Cruz. So then we were opening up beaches and grocery stores and stuff like that. And I became targeted because of that. So you can do Right to Travel and not be targeted, but I was a public face. I was a public figure. We were live streaming and stuff and doing viral videos. And so what's happened now is I have about 12 misdemeanors I'm facing, all Right to Travel type stuff, and all bunch of crap. Okay. And you've seen some of the videos. And then they gave me 2 felonies charges because of the 2 charges are forgery of a registration document, okay, for having private plates in my car. And then the other one is a vandalism, because when they came and towed my car, I can't remember if we showed that video or not, but I asked the cop, I said, where's the warrant? You can't just come up and take my car. And they quoted some code. I said, yeah, you have to give me paperwork. You can't just come up and take my property. But that was the 8th time that they towed it. And I was just like, I'm done with this, dude. Like, I don't like being a target. I don't like the feeling of having these hyper wealthy psychopaths target me. I don't want to do that. So anyways, those are the charges. And now, Sue Ann's helped me with paperwork. And like she said, sometimes the paperwork is effective, sometimes it's not. because I'm a political target, I mean, this basically has nothing to do with right to travel, but it's an excuse to get me into the system and to terrify me and make me bow down. Basically, they want me to bend my knee and stop exercising my freedom. And so, you know, the first time you get arrested, you're like, all right, you know, and the second time, and then after you do it a few times, you're paying all this money. You're like, what is this for? What am I achieving here? Like, what's actually good about this situation? And the first thing is that it feels great personally because I'm living in integrity with my beliefs and integrity with my values. And I'm like, yes, I am doing what's right. And it's always the right time to do what's right. And then you have understanding that we're dealing with organized crime. You know, that's the other component, right? Like nobody wants to be dominated by organized crime. So what do? Well, now it's about hedging the risk, in my opinion, right? Like, so anyways, I have court. It's been going on for over a year, and we did motions, we did MERS. The MERS, I don't think I did a conditional acceptance on this one, but I am facing those charges. Trial is scheduled for June, I think end of June. The next court hearing is on June 15th, and that is a trial readiness conference. Now, we had a trial readiness conference in January. We had a trial readiness conference, I think, in October, and I'm submitting things. I'm doing challenge of jurisdiction. We're challenging these things, and so they extend it. And so we're trying to play the game. We're trying to learn the game, and well, I got to choose. Am I going to show up to court? Because I do have video of one of the judges saying I have jurisdiction over you because you're here today. She says, in and of itself, I have jurisdiction because you're here on video. And then, of course, if I don't show up, then they put out a warrant for me. If I go to court, will I get a fair shake at trial? Right? Because I'm in a super lefty, super blue county, and I've been maligned in the media already for the activism of the mask stuff, right? And that's, I think, why I was targeted, because the super status, you know, lefties contacted the DA or the police and get this Rodriguez guy, right? He's shopping without a mask, and you know, all the just ridiculousness that we've seen the last 2 years. So I was you know, standing up for that, and they wanted me to stop. So it's like, get this guy under control. We were doing the bonfires on the beaches, you know, illegally, right? You're supposed to leave at 10 p.m. and we stayed after and hang out, and no harm, no damage. This is you know, public space. So anyway, so that's what's on my mind, Clint, right now, and everybody, is I got these 2 felonies, and I think max sentence is like 3 years. So I'm like, oh man, do I go to trial and risk it or expose it? And then, as you know, or some of you know, when you go to trial, they can stop the evidence. They can make the evidence inadmissible. So it's like, is it even worth going to trial? So what they offered me is a plea deal for 5 misdemeanors. So I would plea to, you know, resisting arrest and vandalism and like all this crap that I didn't do. And I was exercising my freedoms. I was doing these things. And there's, of course, if I could redo it, I would do it differently. But not standing up for freedom, that's what terrifies me. That's what terrifies me. I'm gonna look my kids in the face and say, yeah, it's all tyranny, but I backed down like a little coward. I backed down versus I tried. I exercised my freedoms, and yeah, I got kidnapped or, you know, whatever it is. But it's just like a psychological, spiritual game, you know, that we're playing here. I'm glad you said that, Sue Ann, because it is. It's like you are the main character in your movie, and I'm the main character in my movie, and we get to choose how much risk we want to play, how much desire, or goals, or dreams, or things to go for. And I came to this planet to be free, to help my brothers and sisters be free. And it took me a while to get clear about that particular purpose, because we're taught to just chase money, get money, right? And it's like, that don't make me happy. Freedom makes me happy. Being able to express myself and say what I want and do what I want without, you know, some politician telling me what to do, that makes me happy. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? Should I take a plea? Should I not show up? Should I go to trial? These are some big questions that I have to face And I'm of course open to hear, what you guys think.
Yeah, this is the time. I think we get you. We understand what your priority in life is. We understand what you value. We know now your history and what you're facing. So what would you like to ask from this group?
Of course, it's helpful to get donations, but that's not the point. The point, I think, is emotional support, verbal support.
What is this about donations? Donations for what?
For lawful legal paperwork and support to maybe even hire a bar attorney. I don't know. I mean, when you're facing the dragon, any solution would work. But it's like, what is the solution and how can I get it? At this point, I'm in the fire, so I got to get out of the fire. That's the essence of it. And again, just the point, I'm not saying this is because of Right to Travel. It's because I'm a political activist in a super crazy county, and this is how they do it. They use these codes and stuff to target me. And so of course, freedavid.org. You can donate some bucks there.
This movement is a movement, David. It means we're together. Okay. I know you're the one who's out there sticking your neck out, and we so appreciate that. And different people want to support you in different ways. And one of the ways they can do that is by donating. And what is the website?
freedavid.org.
Wow, cool. And link on that. And then I'm going to ask you to raise your hands, folks, if you have something to share with David. Anything you do, anything you have in mind to support him in any way you feel you'd like to. How about Audra?
Hi there, I'm Abra. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, welcome. Is this your first time to our free traveler movement?
It is. I'm not even sure how I got invited, but I'm involved in a lot of groups, so
Welcome.
thank you. Well, I do have some advice for David and may be able to share some documents that I'm working on. So when COVID happened and they forced me to shut down my business, I'm a massage therapist and an esthetician, so I touch people for a living, and it was determined that my business is non-essential. It was essential to me. So let's just say I got a little bit out of shape for a minute and I ended up getting myself a DUI. I was really, really angry. And anyways, this has been a very learning experience for me though. So at the last possible minute, I decided to fire the lawyer and fight it. And I've done all of it. I've done demurs, I've done conditional acceptance, I've done, I'm claiming my status as American national, all kinds of stuff. I also did not answer to the name, and I also, I didn't have a lawyer. And one thing I found out that may be useful to David and everyone else, and I don't know if this is an absolute fact, but I'm in a lot of study groups, and I ended up in kind of an advanced study group where there's some mentors mentoring people. And one of the main mentors said, I told him my situation, and he said that they cannot and they will not take you to trial without you having either a lawyer or a standby counsel. And how we got on this conversation was because I ended up getting a standby counsel because during one of the hearings, one of my friends that was a witness broke in and was like, that's it, that's enough. When the judge decided to combine, because I had my maiden name, my birth name, and then my name now, and they were calling me my birth name. And I'm like, first of all, that's not my name. And you know that that's not my name. And second of all, I am not the all caps name. I am not a corporation. I'm a living woman. And I sent them a lot of documentation proving to them I'm a living woman. But when my friend busted in, and then that inspired me to speak loudly going, yeah, that's not my name. And then the judge put a standby counsel on me. So the standby counsel doesn't do anything except she does not speak on my behalf in court. She doesn't sign any papers for me, doesn't do anything. Well, she did get discovery for me, which apparently if you don't ask for discovery, then apparently, and I do not know this to be a fact, this is something that someone told me, but apparently they can't put their discovery in until you ask for it. So that may also be a way to drag this thing out until you can get, figure out what you want to do. One of the things that, you know, with my national status, all the documents I send in proving I'm a national, because I have not been naturalized. And if you have not been naturalized, then you are a national unless, you know, you have a voter registration, and what's the other one? Some other one. So one of the next things that we're getting ready to do is an order to show cause. Prove to me that I have filled out and signed a naturalization document, that I have been naturalized. And then there's a process that some of the people in the study group that I've been in for years have also been having trouble with the same stuff, traveling stuff, getting their license suspended, and then they're getting caught without a suspended license and all this stuff. And one of the guys in our group is really super smart, like one of those people with a photogenic memory, which is not what I've got. And he, when he went into court, he knew all the laws and codes, and he told them everything they were breaking, and he knew it all inside out and backwards and forwards, which I absolutely cannot do. But he is in the middle of, okay, so somehow he just got acknowledged, and a person he's trying to get out of jail, he just got acknowledged to as an American national officially, which I'm going to learn more about tonight, how that happened later on in a talk I'm having with somebody. And then there's a process that you can do to pull your case out of their court into federal court, challenging jurisdiction, and it has to do with proving that you're naturalized and that you're not an American national, and it goes to the Attorney General and someone else. So I'm going to be doing that, and I'm not going to be getting that paperwork until the end of the month. Like we're working on it. They're finishing. Oh, something that we did was we did the amnesty oath, and that's supposed to be really super powerful when you do an amnesty oath. And we did, I'd have to look at mine to tell you who's the guy whose amnesty oath we did, but it was when it's when the North and South, you know, the South supposedly lost, and then they had to sign an amnesty oath to be let back into the country, and they had to say, yes, I will support the Constitution and whatnot. Well, they all got a presidential pardon, and when you sign this amnesty oath, you get the presidential pardon. It's like grabbing on the ring of redemption is what I've been told. And so I'm in the process of getting this paperwork together on my own case. So I can't tell you much more than theory, but like this is a once a month group. Is there somebody that's in charge of this group that I can share these documents with, and so they can get them out to the others? Or
Yes. Thank you, Audra. Wow, really welcome, double, triple welcome. Sounds like you are throwing everything at it that you got. And I'd love to know, yeah, I'd love to be able to share your successes with others. You can write to me at info, I-N-F-O, at commonerlaw.com.
let me get my piece of paper out. Okay, info at commonerlaw, and that's COMMONER.
That's right.
Commoner Law, okay.
.com.
.com.
Why commoner law? Because we're all commoners.
Right.
And we need law to be more commonplace for everyone, all the folks, all the people that we are. Send that to me. Sounds like our strategy is throw everything at the kitchen sink at it.
Well, I've learned a lot. Let me just
the
put it this
national
way.
status. I was a state national. You know, in the beginning, this was like April 2020, and it didn't really affect anything. But it's because I'm targeted. So it's like they don't follow their own rules. You know what I mean? So it's hard to deal with a criminal organization. They're not following their own rules. But yeah, at this point, you try anything, right? This is the whole point. It's like trying anything so that they'll leave us alone, right? It just happened. I'm in the system right now, and it's different than like, you know, paying the fine or like doing the paper game, because the felony is serious, man. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, how did I get myself into this, right? Because we're dealing with a police state. That's what we're dealing with. This is not about like, oh, you didn't say this. Because I've gone to the court too, and I said, I'm the living man. The flesh lives and the blood flows. And he said, oh, we're not gonna play any more games. And he said it again, and I said it again, and he says, okay, failure to appear, you know, and I'm sitting right there. He gave me a bench warrant. I'm sitting right there because they're thugs. That's what they are. They don't follow their own rules. Because there has to be a verified criminal complaint, a sworn statement by somebody that have harmed. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yep.
But now these corporations are just raising revenue on all of us. And yeah, whatever. It's just a deep thing that it is, right? For humanity to let this have gone on so far. And I would say the Americans have been lulled to sleep almost and hypnotized with statism, with, government's good and the politicians represent you and you're so free, give us a third of your income for life and, pay us 1% property tax for life on the property that you paid the bank. And I mean, this is massive criminality. This is massive thuggish mafioso stuff. So that's what we're doing when we're doing it right to travel. In a way, we're kind of flicking it a little bit, but then we're threats to the system, right? That's what this is about. That's why they targeted David Rodriguez, because if they if this guy's going to do this, then other people are going to get inspired. Other people are going to follow him. He's going to learn. And so it's smack him down. So this is why right to travel is so important, right? Because it's right on the nerve. It's right. The critical point is licensing, right? Imagine we could make this huge movement. They lose when they're outnumbered. They lose when the violence and intimidation no longer works. Right now they're using intimidation, coercion, but when enough people are off with my plates and off with the license, they can't do anything. Although they're going to try, because that's what mafioso gangsters do. They're still going to try to take our stuff and take our person and make our life a living hell. And then it's just I'm going to pay the fee and pay the license and registration, just get off my back. It's a convenience fee, when the mafia comes over and says, hey, you have a successful restaurant over here. It would be a shame if some people came and burned it down or something. I'll give you a $3,000 a month fire protection fee. The mafia says to the restaurant owner,
Yes, I understand. It's very good. So, and there's actually, in addition to David, there are at least 2 other people on the line who want to get feedback for their situations as well.
Yeah, 100%. I've been in court eight or times or so. And just so you know, last July, when they put these new felony charges on me, I said, Your Honor, how do you morally justify what you're doing right now? I haven't harmed anybody, haven't damaged anybody. She said, guilty or not guilty, there's new charges, Mr. Rodriguez. And I asked the same question again. How do you morally justify using violence against a peaceful guy? I've harmed nobody. And then the second time, he says, I'm having doubts about your mental competency to stand trial, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm going to suspend the criminal charges until we can get you a mental evaluation. So she suspended the charges, signed me a public defender right there in the court. And I was presenting myself, and she suspended the charges.
Did you should have fired the lawyer right away 3 times.
Well, it's not that easy, Audra. So what happens is they kidnapped me and they took me to jail for 2 weeks.
Oh.
So you see, there's patriot mythology and there's actual real world stuff. So Sue Ann stuff, this is real world stuff. Your personal firsthand experience is the reality of the situation. And so I've tried many of these things, and they don't work. They railroad me. I think you maybe said an order to show cause. That's the counsel I got. The last one, I did an order to show cause, and guess what she said? Denied. I said, well, goes back to I challenged jurisdiction. Sue Ann's paperwork on the challenge of jurisdiction is awesome, very powerful. And so they stayed silent. They didn't reply to the challenge of jurisdiction. And so I went into court saying, okay, maybe they're going to dismiss it. I said, you didn't respond to the challenge of jurisdiction. And then the DA says, oh yes, we already we already did this. I said, no, you have not. I said, I did a verbal challenge in the past. I did a written challenge. Now this is on the record in Supreme Court US versus Mello. Says you can't move forward if the challenge jurisdiction is not proven on the record. And so I said that to the judge, and she started going through all the documents I filed over the last 12 months. Takes 2.5 minutes in court, looking at the documents, dead silent in court. She's looking through it. She can't find it. And then the DA says, well, Your Honor, maybe it's not on the record, but I remember we said it. And it was basically she looked at him, was like, oh, well, then I find that there is jurisdiction. I said, objection. You have to show it to me now. You have to show. Anyways, but I was being more calm. I'm getting excited right now because it's so outrageous and tyrannical. Anyways, they didn't prove jurisdiction, and still they railroaded me. So the next time, like 2 months later, I did an order show cause. Show cause why he doesn't have to prove jurisdiction. And that didn't work either. She said, order denied. We're like, oh my gosh. So the counsel I have now is going to suggest we do a writ of some kind. I'll be curious to hear if Sue-Ann thinks that's positive or not. I think he's going to do a writ of mandamus, and I think a writ of prohibition is, I think, the strategy. And I'll share it with you guys next month, when we come on. But I'm in it right now, and there's books about stuff, but there's like real world experience. And I think that's why this group is so powerful, because there's a lot of people on this call who are doing right to travel, and they have, speeding tickets or red light stuff or something. And we're like, this is what I tried, and this is what happened. And okay, this is what I tried again. This is what happened. So you have like the real world to reflect upon rather than some, mythology, which is why one of the guys, Paul Enslaved, he had his, viral right to travel thing. I interviewed him the next week, and I said, how long you been doing right to travel? He said, this is my first time. I was like, what? So like in that moment, like Sue-Ann said, he believed, and he was able to persuade the officer, and the officer was like, okay, and then, can you email me some information? The officer said to him. Well, then, months later, I think he's had his car towed multiple times, and he's dealing with some stuff, but it's a higher game that we're playing. Is like exercising our freedoms is how we are free. We're not free by pieces of paper. We're free by exercising our freedoms. And anyways, thanks, Audra, for that. That's a great point. And I'll let y'all know how it goes in court, but we need solutions, and I appreciate you making those mentions and adding that stuff in the chat box.
Yes, so that's right, David. Our emphasis here in this movement needs to be practical and not theoretical. Of course, theory is important and it can inform, but we're here to get the facts of your case and everyone else here. So I'm just going to keep saying that because I guess we have a tendency to say a lot of stuff as well as the facts. And I just want to remind everybody over and over again that we're here to learn the real facts, the real deal. So Sue-Ann, David said he would be interested in hearing what you thought about those motions, the writs that he's going to be putting forth.
I think this one of the options that you have. Okay, I don't see any problem with doing a writ of mandate and a writ of prohibition. That would be really good as far as I'm concerned. I would follow through on that. In the 90s, I went to all of the stuff that Audrey talked about, and I found it did not work for me. And so I've stayed away from that. I have several of my students in the 90s that have done them, and they have never been successful. David said that he did it and it wasn't successful for him either. So, I look at the different, there are so many different people out there providing information. And I always tell my students that unless you can prove that it actually works, don't ever follow them.
But thanks. So you definitely the writs that David is going to do, you're okay with that. So that's great, David Hunt.
Yeah. Now I have one question with David. Is he using an attorney? Because I can tell you lots of stories about attorneys. I had a friend that did that, and he was not really happy after the attorney, that the government paid the attorney to let the guy go to prison. And I get really challenged by people who want to use an attorney, because attorneys are not there for you. They are there for the government. They're there for the public. They're there for the corporate, but they are not there for you. You're last on their list.
Right. Yeah, and I saw Victor right there. He mentioned the Department of Travel letter. That's a very interesting letter, worth discussing, I would say, because I couldn't track down the Department of Travel, but that 2015 letter, I think it was to the governor in Carolina, was it, Victor? Is that right? But we on the right side of history. It's just
Yeah, we're gonna hear from others, Dave. So go ahead, Portia. You got your hand raised. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, guys. Very interesting conversation. Just a quick couple of observation and comments, David and Aubrey. I think with relations to approaching this from the standpoint of their statutes and doing order to show cause and a lot of their stuff is basically, from my experience and my studies, is playing in their sandbox when you'll never win.
Yeah.
And that's why the judge is so belligerent at times or totally dismiss you because they own you in that playground. Okay.
Yep.
So you are not going to come in and use their tools and think you're going to beat them using these orders to show cause. It's just they laugh at you. Okay. I believe, and again, based on my experience and my studies, unless you're coming from a constitutional law in terms of how you're approaching them, unless you are making sure that you're coming from a place where it's a jurisdiction question. They have none in persona jurisdiction over you at all. So that's a definite. And unless you're coming from a position of absolute sovereign from your creator, you're not going to win the fight with these people in their jurisdiction using their tools and playing their game. Okay, you have to recognize, and Swan is 1,000% right, that you would be doing yourself the worst favor to get yourself an attorney, because you mentioned about, David, you mentioned about possibly for a donation to help you with an attorney. That is the last thing you need. That will be putting you from the frying pan into the fire, because she's 1,000% right. They work for the corporation, they work for the state. They do not represent you. They are officers of that corporate court and the courtroom. So and definitely it's so interesting that you mentioned the writ of prohibition and the writ of mandamus. I was just listening to an audio today talking about this very subject, and that's exactly the tools that they use, those two writs that allow them to get the attentions of the judges and get their cases dismissed. I'm following a wonderful organization. Clint, you and I spoke about it earlier today. I don't know, would it be okay to share that link with them? My
Sure, go
house
ahead.
shall be called.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yes, yes.
I'm going to share this link with you guys. I want you to listen to the recordings of those links. They're giving you 3 different options and ways to deal with these people and have them recognize you for who you are and not who they say you are. And we know who we are as sovereign children of our Creator, of our God. And the label of the name that they have put us in, and the contracts they have secretly, tricked us into getting into with all these licenses and, voting cards and everything else. You guys know the story. So please check out that site. My particular situation where I am right now, Clint and so on, I would definitely love your advice.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to your situation next. We're going to finish up with David. We're going to get to yours, and then Tricia is being very patient as well. And
okay, so then
not to say that a lot of this conversation can apply to everybody. So
I like that.
So we'll get to you real soon. Okay, I think Victor's the only one.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you. This is my first time joining your group.
Welcome.
And I've been listening to the teachings of a variety of different people over the past 6 months. I am an American State National also. When I brought up that letter, David, if you haven't been able to find the Department of Travel on the Secretary of State's website is where that's at. I'll find the link for you, and I got your email. I'll send it to you. The other thing I think that's real important, David, is that you have been put in jail probably for contempt of court. Is that right? Is that what it sounds like you've been put in jail for? No? They've convicted you of something?
No.
No.
No, the only time I've been in jail is well, I challenged her asking those questions in court, and so it's suspended criminal charges until I can determine you're mentally competent. So I had to do
Ah.
2 mental evaluations when I was in jail. But the other times I got arrested, it's because I'm on the side of the road and he's asking me to identify myself, and I roll my window down this much and I say, I'm not a driver, I'm a traveler, and we go back and forth, and I push it because I was like trying to see what happens in the real world, you know.
Yeah,
And so anyway, so that's what happened. So they pulled me out of the car and then they arrest me. Other times they've broken my window before. Other times they've reached into my car because my window was down. They
Yeah.
reach and pull open the
What were you
door.
put in jail for, David?
Resisting arrest, delaying an officer,
Oh my
all
God.
right to travel stuff. And so
Yeah.
here's how I could have avoided getting arrested. Sign the paperwork, identify myself. So this is where it's like, okay, do I want to go to jail now? Now I know. Now I know when I'm dealing with the cop what this guy's gonna do. I'm kind of like, I'm not like,
What state are you in?
I'm in California. So like
Okay.
now when I'm talking to a cop, I can not read the cop's mind, but he is basically Agent Smith in the Matrix, and you are Neo, and so am I. And so, you know, now you can see what's going on. And if he says, if you don't do this, I'm going to arrest you, or if you don't do this, this is going to happen. I said, oh, you're using violence, I will comply. Right. So there's been multiple times where I was pushing, and then they gave that phrase. They said they're going to use violence, and we take them as their word. They literally believe they have superpowers and that they're untouchable, and the police union will gut their back, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, that's a great lesson.
Thank you for those clarifications, David. Really appreciate that. Are you familiar with the 12 presumptions of court?
Yes.
Yes.
And you rebutted them in writing?
No, I have not.
Okay. So that would have been one of the first things that I would have done if I had to appear before a bar judge or a bar attorney. That, and I believe once you have squashed that, you have refuted what they're assuming about you, that gives you more standing in a courtroom.
Yeah, Victor, do you have like a template of those 12 assumptions rebutted?
Yes, I do.
And I do too.
Yeah, Sue, well, good, Sue, very good.
Not just the assumptions, but
The rebuttal of them. Yeah, the rebuttal of them. And, you know, some of the rebuttal you can do almost immediately. One of those is showing that you have your family trust in order. One of them showing that you have the King James Bible 1611 version, which is the basis of law. Another item that you can show is that you have your affidavits, your contracts that you have. I mean, showing that you actually are in charge. They're not. I don't know what all David did when he went into the courtroom. And again, I'm learning this from other people. I have not had the privilege of experiencing this like David is, and I'm thankful David is still standing strong.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Those are the two things I wanted to bring up. There is a ton of information out there, and I'm still filtering through it. And
All right, David, Victor, thanks for
we've
being
got your
here.
back, David. So I'm going to go from there.
We got your back. That's great. So if you want to, you can in the chat section, Victor, if you're familiar with the chat section, you can actually attach documents. So if you care to share the rebuttals of those 12 assumptions.
I see it there, and I'll add those 2 documents that I was talking about.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll be here every first Tuesday of the month. Hope you can make it with us. All right, let's see. So we're going to go on to Portia's situation. Thanks again, David. Please hang out with us for the rest of this meeting. But I understand if you have you're speaking, aren't you? Are you a featured speaker there at this Freedom Conference in Texas? Are you not?
I did. I spoke, and then yeah, it was phenomenal, man. There's a massive awakening happening, man. And so like I feel hemmed a little bit because I'm facing these charges. I can't be fully me because I'm in the fire right now. I got to shut my mouth and be a good little boy, you know, like because we're powerful. You are powerful, and they got me like halfway in a vice grip right now, and it's like, do I plead? Do I fight? But anyways, this is not going to be. We're not going to be stopped.
Yeah. And I also want to let everyone know David is his profession is as a consultant to parents and communities that actually want to educate their kids freely. And so if you would just want to tell them about your website or let them know a little bit about you in that regard.
Yeah, this is another point. It's like I'm feeling the heat to get these kids out of the school system, right? And so when I was in jail, it's like I can't help anybody when I'm in jail. So I have a mission for myself to get these kids out. So homeschoolleader.com, the website's in the works. I have a Facebook group by the same name, Homeschool Leader, and I do accelerated graduations. I'm a principal of Valor Academy, and I graduate 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds so they can get on with their life and stop sitting in a chair for years, bored in this terrible system that is absolute mind control, and it's this destroying many kids. There's teenagers that are committing suicide. It's like, yeah, because they're not free. And just like mice, they did laboratory experiments. Like people give up when they're not free, and that's what's happening. So anyways, I do accelerated graduations, homeschool consulting, and the purpose and what I spoke about here is called building intergenerational freedom communities. And I would say this monthly confab is a type of that type of community, because we know we're not going to change the system overnight, but we can chop at it every month. We can chop at it every week, every day, whatever. And in time, it will fall. Maybe it's not in the next 10 years, but we know that truth is not going to be suppressed. That they're losing. That's why they're censoring. That is a sign of victory, or a shred of like positive, like
Awesome.
truth. Yeah. So this is the good news, and that's why I spoke about intergenerational, and that's what I learned. I pushed too hard, but I had to know for myself. So I appreciate you guys and what you're saying, and your personal experience, and go do court watching too. Go into the courtroom so you can see somebody when they're in a facing a trial or facing the charges, and then that way it becomes less afraid. I'm not afraid of the courts any longer. I'm afraid of these armed people who are mindless and haven't even read the Constitution, man. I cross-examined the cop on the preliminary hearing, and I said, did you swear an oath to the Constitution? Yeah. I said, when was the last time you read the Constitution? He's like, yeah, they never even read it. They never even read it. So yeah, so that's what's going on, and I'll be happy to assist anybody with their young children, apprenticeships, and even like internship type stuff. It's about this generation, and we are the chosen ones. I believe you are chosen as well, and this is a very exciting call and very exciting community to be a part of. So I look forward to talking more and expanding and learning from all of us, just like we're learning from each other.
That's it. Thank you, David. Thank you. All right, so Portia, she's right in the middle of it too. Just for the sake of time, everyone, let's get to the facts of the matter and see if we can support each other with some concrete things. So Portia.
Okay, so I've been dealing with these speed trap tickets here in New York. If you go anything over 25 miles an hour in many of the designated zones, they send you these tickets, which I've been fighting. I recently, in taking Swan's classes, send out notices of defaults, and first of all I did the conditional acceptance. So where I'm at is I recently sent out the notice of default and the notice of estoppel, but I'm still getting tickets with late fees, and I recently got one ticket. If it's okay, Clint, do I have time to share it very quickly? It's a brief paragraph, so they can see exactly what I'm talking about.
You want to share it from your screen, or do you want to read it?
Yeah, I'm going to do a share screen. Is that okay? I can do a share screen so they can see what it looks like. It's a brief sentence. And
let's take a look at it.
So this is just one among, I'm dealing with about four altogether, a little under $300. And I have to watch, because if you go over 400 here in the state, they will put a boot on your car. So based on what I send them with the conditional acceptance, the courtesy notice, and this is the response from one of the tickets that they sent. It says the respondent states that the respondent, as a sovereign citizen, which I never state any such thing in any of the correspondence respondents is not bound by the laws relating to the subject notice of liability. Respondents submitted the original notice of liability as well as subsequent notices, all of which were mailed to and received at the respondent's vehicle registration address. However, respondents did not submit a timely response to the notice, and hence respondent submission does not establish meritorious grounds to execute respondent's default, and the motion to vacate default judgment is denied. That is the response to my conditional acceptance and everything that I sent in following up. Totally
Very,
ignored everything that I addressed and did not address any of the things. A matter of fact, I doubt very much the judge even read it or saw it because it's coming from a different department. So I don't know if the hearing department, which is where I submitted the information, they obviously don't communicate with the ticketing department or the processing department, who usually sends out these types of stuff. So Swan, what say you?
okay. I'd like that document. That was very interesting because we need to respond to that. When did you get that?
It was a few days ago.
Okay,
I don't have the
that
portion that shows the date.
that's good. Anyway, so if you send it and I get a copy of it, because you obviously have it on a PDF file, and I
Yeah.
want to do something with that one. Thing is they're denying something. So if they're denying it, then we want to address the denial. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you send me that, I will work on that denial. Okay. Well, first of all, I need to look at the paperwork to determine they're doing this denial. So I want to understand why they're doing the denial. Then I will address that denial. Okay. But until I look at it and have all the pieces, I can't tell you exactly what I'm going to do. Okay. But the next month we will know what I've done, and we will share it.
Now, do I have a time limit to respond to this, say 30 days or anything like that?
You have generally you should have about 30 days. So.
And also the fact that, again, it's not coming, in response to the
Yes,
conditional acceptance at all. It's just
yes, I agree with that. The thing is that they're two different departments. Trust me. Now they have to address the issue themselves, and they become part of the challenge that we have. Yeah.
Yeah. When folks get a ticket, what we have suggested to folks in our Don't Fear the DMV course, and the documents are included in the course, is that you send a conditional acceptance to the judge, the presiding judge, to the district attorney, and to the officer involved. Now, what Sue-Ann is talking about is that this response came from still another person, presumably. What is their title and what is their role, Portia?
It seems like it's the administrative judge. It's administrative judge named So Young Lee.
Okay.
Okay.
So what Sue-Ann is talking about is one thing is definitely to say, okay, well, we can include you in this conditional acceptance, and they'll be put in default as well, and so they have the option to drag themselves into the situation.
Yep.
Yes. There's a certification says that I hereby certify that the matter recorded above will reflect a hearing conducted by the undersigned administrative law judge, ALJ in parentheses, on proof of submission by the respondent and the City of New York, and that said determination was made by me on that hearing. I don't know what hearing they're talking about. I was never present to hear anything.
See, and that's one of the questions we will be asking this administrative law judge. Since you were not notified and you could not, you were not there, what is it that they're addressing? You know, there's a few things that we will, this is one I enjoy doing. Okay.
All right, game on. Let's do it. Game on. Let's do
I
it.
figured you'd enjoy.
And might I say very quickly in response to some of what David had said, and I will be very brief. I commend him so much. I really admire and I love what he's doing with the homeschooling. I think that is a wonderful, ambitious thing, and I'm going to do whatever I can to support you there, David. It is amazing. And also, I want to encourage you to stay strong. Don't give up. Stand on your faith, because if God is for you, who can be against you?
Absolutely.
And remember, He is for you. He is in the battle with you. You have our prayers and our strength to stand. And when you go in there, you face them and you let them know you are not a corporate slave. You are a sentient being. You're live, as you say, flesh and blood man. And whatever they think you are, they do not have any jurisdiction. You are a citizen, not even of your state, not even of your nation, but of the kingdom of God. That is where you're a citizen of. So please keep that in mind and stand strong, okay?
Thank you, Portia. Fantastic. And we're going to go to Tricia next.
Okay, so I got the ticket, a speeding ticket on December 20th, and then I got a letter January 5th. It was dated January 5th. You know, it's the one that they tell you, like, these are your options, pay the fine, go to school, whatever. And so I sent all the letters, the conditional acceptance letters, through notice of estoppel, notice of default. And then I got a letter, notice of failure to appear in civil assessment. And it says I must take action by June 13th. But what's interesting about this letter is that nowhere on this letter does it say any date past the 5th of January, which is the original letter generation date. It just says that I must respond on or before June 13th, but it doesn't say that I failed to appear on March 22nd, which was my deadline. You know, so it doesn't say anything in this letter doesn't have a date that it was generated, but like I said at the top, it says 1/5/22. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if that is just how they do it or if that's related to the documents I sent and they're just being careful.
Sounds to me like they're trying to be careful. But I'd like to see those documents.
Okay.
She's already delivered the notice and opportunity documents all the way through the notice of estoppel. And then she gets this notice that seems to ignore it. And yet, because of a date, go ahead and say it again, Tricia, this date on this document you received indicates that you think that they're being careful.
Yes, because they never mention any date after, well, actually after January 5th. So that was when I started sending the documents, was after I received that letter. And my due date to pay the fine or, you know, set up a court appearance was March 22nd. And they never stated on here, you did not show up. You had a duty to show up on March 22nd or pay your fine. They never even mentioned that date or any other date, except for the fact that now I have to do something by June 13th.
So you need some help.
Yep,
Yeah.
you do.
They have their standard documents, we all know, and for like 99.9% of the situations that they deal with administratively, they have, you know, standardized documents. But then when they get something unusual, they try sometimes to use the standard documents and modify it, or they write a whole letter from scratch. But whatever they do, it's often very revealing, because again, it's not something they're used to dealing with. It's not just a standard thing. So it's really informative for us who are trying to figure out what their little schemes. And I have to say, Sue-Ann and others, we haven't really talked about the possibility that this court, so to speak, is not as a venue really a court, in the sense that we think of it as a place of justice, that maybe it's just an administrative office that is there to collect money. And in that sense, I mean, most of the conversation tonight has been about as if we're dealing with a true court of law, but are we?
No, you are not. This is an administrative tribunal, and it's only for corporate officers and those engaged in any type of activity that the legislature can rule and regulate. So if you are a, say, an electrician and you've got a license, it applies to you. If you are, if you're a contractor doing business at someone's home,
Mhm.
it applies to you. But if you have a separate see, one of the things they did in 1911 is that they started getting rid of your right to contract. And there was a wonderful case that I read on that, and it had to do with the railroad company. And it was astounding what they were doing. And so what they're trying to do is they try to get rid of your right to contract. And when you have something where you have the right to contract, it's under the Constitution and they can't do it. But they figured out a way to get you convinced that they can do it. So
Right. So this courtroom, this venue is more, what would you call, you said it's an
administrative tribunal, and all they do is that they deal with anything done through the legislature. So it's called a legislative court. And if you look in the United States Constitution, they talk about the difference between an executive, legislative, and judicial. Judicial has power. Legislative does not, unless you are engaged in an activity to which the legislature can rule and regulate. I love that term. I figured that out in the 90s. And people have to understand that. And when you're talking about DMV, they have that authority for one who is transporting persons or property for hire. And it's called a substantive effect test. And this is something the officer is supposed to ask you anytime he stops you. Are you transporting persons or property for hire? If you're not, he's to let you go. Even if you have license and registration on your car, he's supposed to let you go. But they don't even teach them anything about a substantive effect test because they got most people convinced that they are under DMV and you are under all their rules. Oh, look at this.
Right. So thank you very much for that. And I'm sure there's more to be said about that, but it looks like these traffic courts are really just administrative tribunals, and it's they're not a part of the judicial branch, and we are fooled into thinking they are. And I think a lot of what like David and others are grappling with when we see that they're not doing what they're supposed to do is because what we expect is something to do with justice, and they have no obligation apparently to follow the common law, but certainly and even any rules that apply to an actual court as part of the judicial branch. So I just wanted to make sure that we got that said tonight. Here we are looking at Tricia's document, notice of failure to appear and civil assessment.
Yep.
So go ahead.
Oh, and let's see, your case is past due pursuant to Penal Code 1214.1. Well, that doesn't apply to you. What an idea. Okay, the first one is that, you know, pursuant to Penal Code 1214.1. That means you have to have been one who is regulated by the DMV. And I do not see a substantive effect test that put you under that code. So it's an assumption. A civil assessment. Well, how can you be a civil assessment unless you are one of their people in
Right.
yeah. So these
Regulated field. Mhm.
right. So the point is they have not proven their authority. Now, this was what did you say this was for?
A speeding ticket.
It was a speeding ticket. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now you have you been on our group before?
Yes, I've been here from pretty much the beginning with the whole vaccine, thing, like the
Oh, okay.
multiplicity of suits and all that stuff.
All right. And you did do the conditional acceptance to them?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And see, you didn't get what Portia got, which is very interesting. Okay. So they don't even deny it here. They just kept going.
Yeah.
And so yeah. So what we will do is that we will go after because all of the things about the payment and those sort of things, you just need to respond to the fact that they're saying that you failed to appear. Now, did you send what did Victor just say? Hang on a second while I open that up and see. Did she respond to the speeding within 72 hours? We found that has not worked. Okay?
Yeah, I did do that, but it didn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Okay. So, but you still have that paperwork, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we just have to
And I signed the ticket under duress. It says under duress clearly on the.
Oh,
ticket.
very good. Okay,
Yeah.
that is important. Okay. So we can go take this and go back with all of the information back to whoever sent this to you. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
It's up the top, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, we send it back to the Superior Court.
There's
Yeah.
actually no name.
Yeah, there's no name, but
There's no person involved here. There's no actual person. That's something to notice.
Right, but it doesn't matter. We send it to the Superior Court of California, County of Ventura, at that address, okay? And we put in the case number and we explain to them that they have not responded to the conditional acceptance, and therefore their information, this information is out of compliance with their right to inform you. So, these are sort of the but isn't it interesting? They got court appearance. Your appearance is optional.
yeah.
Really. And yet your failure to appear. Okay. So your citation was your court appearance was when?
It was March 22nd.
Okay, so that's information I do have to have.
Okay.
Oh, it says he's correct. We have to address the fact that your appearance was your 72 hour.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So you did your appearance. So
Yeah.
this is bogus.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
But we'll send them all the paperwork as well. Okay.
Okay.
But you have to in your letter to them, okay,
Uh-huh.
you attach a copy of all of the information and go, so what part of this did I not appear on, since I did this, and this. So
Great.
yeah, that's and it's just a basic letter responding to this, and with all of the information in the back. So yeah, this will be real easy to do. Okay.
Okay.
So yes, I like this one.
All right, great.
Yeah. So, and Portia's will be basically the same thing, but theirs is a little different, and I want to respond to the way they did that one. So we're going to see what happens, you know, but I will tell you, this is bogus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So.
good. I feel better about it now.
But if they can convince you,
Yeah, right, right.
oh, what an idea. Okay. So yeah, and what date did you get this?
Let's see what, I think because I started a notice of, oh, what's that called? Oh my gosh.
Notice of liability.
Yeah, notice of liability, thank you. And I think it was April 13th
Okay.
was when it was postmarked. I looked at the envelope. That's the only,
Okay.
and actually though, on the docket, I believe it does have a date, the same date, April 13th, that they sent that out.
Uh-huh.
And they even list on there the letters that I sent. I mean, it's all there that they say that they sent it to the judges' chambers, and
That's fine. Okay.
no, it's just kind of weird that they documented all that and then they still sent me this. But
Absolutely. But do you have that document?
no, I didn't copy it, but I have access to it. I mean, you know, like I can look it up.
Okay. Then I suggest that you get
Okay.
a copy of that. Okay. Because we will attach that to everything else. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is good. I like this.
I like that you like it.
Oh, thanks.
So,
I'll-
I only have one thing to add to everybody, and I don't know this for like 100% absolute fact, but I'm pretty sure that your documents are going to have a lot more weight if you record them on a county. So I like to use Cherokee County, Georgia, because they're so easy and pleasant to work with, and it's not very expensive. And so I record my documents, and then if I want to get a certified copy, I just send in $2.50 for the first page and 50 cents for every page thereafter, like with a money order. And within a week, I have my certified documents. But I haven't done certified documents for hardly anything on my cases, my case. But most of my most important documents have been recorded on the county and have the book and page number. I send them the copy of the recorded copy. So that may help for documents that aren't being recognized. So
Yeah, being recognized.
yeah, that's
All
all I
right.
had.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you. All right. Yeah, and that's kind of a universal suggestion. All right. Thanks, Christy. All right. So thanks, folks. That's all the time we have today. I want to thank you for being here. Remember that the free traveler lifetime membership, which is available at our site, commonerlaw.com, you can register at any time. You get all of these benefits. The Don't Fear the DMV course, which 7 weeks of solid training about the fraud that the DMV is, the vehicle code, what happens if at the roadside, how you can avoid getting a ticket. If you do get a ticket, what steps you need to take. And of course, creating this whole movement together, we will establish our right to free travel once again in this land. So you have these, you have all these benefits. You have the course itself, you have the traffic ticket document workshop. So that's actually coming up real soon, where we're going to walk you through the documents, because the documents are available. We've covered them, but we know that you want to go through them line by line, so you understand them, every single line of the conditional acceptance, the courtesy notice, the notice of default, and the notice of estoppel. You'll be also included in the private discussion group on Telegram. You'll have access to the Dropbox student document repository, where you can share documents with others. These monthly online gatherings are right now, they're for everybody. We're trying to get this movement growing. If you have any more ideas, send me an email at info@commonerlaw.com about how we can get some momentum behind the movement. And then we're going to have some special guest interviews, a whole bunch of a topic that you'd like to feature. If you have a specific topic that you'd like to present, we could feature you on a special occasion on some very specific topic related to free travel. This is the Free Traveler Movement, lifetime membership by the Commoner Law Group, commonerlaw.com. Just scroll down. It's one of the first options on our homepage. Free travel register here. The price for now is $197, and that's for a lifetime. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. There's always more to say. I can't tell you how many times I would love to just keep going, and we could, and we have exhausted everyone after 4 and 5 hours of talking about all this wonderful stuff with such educated people and dedicated people. That's incredible character. I'm so fortunate to be with you all. I'm so looking forward to our next month together. But pay attention to your email at info@commonerlaw.com so you can get notified for all other upcoming events. All right, so look, I'm going to open up the line for everyone, if you feel like it, to unmute yourself and say any final words. Thank you, everyone.
God bless everybody.
Thanks for inviting me.
Bye. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. God bless to everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
All praises to the Most High.